Good morning. It's Wednesday morning. It's 9 o'clock, and this is Norma Cowie here for Norma Talks. Just looking at my top, it's all kind of wrinkled. That's because I still have an arm that's not working right. It's resting here. It doesn't want to hold itself up, but that's okay. Plus, I have a croaky voice this morning. I have been singing la 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 for the last while, and it's still croaky. But what we're looking at today is the sword symbology of the tarot. And it's all about how do we handle our problems and our issues? How do we handle those? How do we deal with those? When you understand the force lower arcana, which I've been working on, this is the third one we're looking at. You begin to understand the pattern of your life. And by understanding the pattern, very often what happens is that you can make the corrections that you need. Now, I don't think that we're all perfect, and very often we get so embroiled in whatever's going on that we don't maybe do the things that we need to do. But in the reality, understanding does help. It does help, and you can kind of give yourself a little bit of a shake wherever it is. So the third suit that I always look at is the swords, the problems, the challenges. We don't always like to think of it as problems. We want to think of it as challenges, as the awareness of what, when, where, and how. But understanding the pattern. Now, the swords pattern is not as simple. Like in the wands, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 symbols to sort of show you the pattern. Put 4 fingers up. Like you know, you're regarding have your thought, you contemplate your thought, you project the thought, you reap the rewards of the thought. Then comes all the other stuff. In the cups, you have 3. You embrace the emotionality, the connection to the one. You balance that out, and then you're happy, kind of thing. Very simple. But of course, because it's emotional stuff, feeling stuff, that doesn't always work out. But here we have the intellectual element. This is the mind working, not just thinking. It's about understanding. And we start off, and this is really the only simple that we can really say, hey, this is the answer. What we've got here is the Ace of Swords. I'm trying to see, make sure there's not too much light reflection on it. What is it? Like all aces, a hand comes out of a cloud and it's holding an ace. I'm going to hold it a little closer there. The sword. And then the sword has 3 yards of light on each side of it. Whoops, my hand's wandering a bit here. The sea of life is underneath. It actually is the sea of life, but it also could be tops of mountains, but it's pretty rough. Then if you go higher, there's a crown with a palm and a laurel wreath. That's from the high priestess, because you have a choice. This says that when an issue comes up, you must deal with it. And I left a space because we don't deal with it. That's the whole thing. That's where the swords take over from there. It's showing here that by working, by accepting, by knowing, we aspire above it and we deal with that. And I found once I began to recognize that for myself, was that always true? No, because I'm like everybody else. I want to do what number 2 says, we'll bury our head in the sand. But I did become more aware and more dealt with things quicker on the whole. And because I knew that was the answer. But what we tend to do is this: bury our head in the sand. This is the 2 of Swords, blindfold on, the behind the emotionality with the rocks and everything. And if you look very closely in the sky, there's a little moon there. Hang on a minute. I had touched something. There we go. Got to move that out of the way. So what happens is that we put our head in the sand, or we just refuse to acknowledge that there's an issue. We don't want an issue. So this is the first resistance. When we have an issue comes up, no, it's fine. It's fine. I've got it handled. But if you look very closely, the 2 swords there cross over the heart. They're holding, I'll see if I can hold one hand up. So it's like you form a cross. Nope, I'm not going to touch my heart. Nope, I'm good. I can handle it. And I'm sure if you think back over your life, you can think of how many times you did that when an issue arises, especially if it's an emotional issue. It's like, no, it's fine. I've got everything under control. I know what I'm going to do. But what happens when you do that is this: the three, the heart with the three swords through it. Disappointment, hurt, pain. That's all this one talks about. Disappointment, hurt, and pain. That's where we end up very quickly. If we don't resolve the issue, if we put our head in the sand and act like it's not there, this is where we go. Disappointment, hurt, pain. And that's where we will be until we do this. That is the 4. And then the 4, it says, go inside. See the 3 swords up on the wall? And there's a little pane here with 2 people talking together with a black line. So it's, again, talking. But this is a meditative element where we go inside and we resolve within ourselves the issues that we have. And because the 4th one is underneath, resolve it. Now, if you've been in any churches in England, you'll see things like this all the time. It took me a while to get used to walking over dead people, first of all. And secondly, in other places, you would have sarcophaguses like this. And it's really, it was quite an eye-opener for me. I was like, oh my goodness, these people are buried in the floor. I have to walk over them. And very often, if you think about your life, if you've lived a little while, you've had some, you've got some dead issues down there, which you don't really want to think about or deal with. And you just wish they'd disappear forever, which is not true. In the sense that you carry them with you. And again, not to beat the old drum too much. This is why self-forgiveness is so important. But it's like, we need to go inside. We need to resolve those issues, whatever they are. And that's what began me on my transformation journey, was to figure out my stuff. And then was given, a wonderful way that people, the guides, have worked with me, is all of a sudden opening up new avenues of how we could do that in an easier way. So anyway, so here we are. We have these issues. So what happens if we don't go inside and resolve them? More conflict. Now, again, I'll put a little closer. The first original 3 swords, being held. That's that disappointment from the 3. 2 people walking away, very sketchy sky, lots of like argument, hurt, pain, etc. And now you've got 2 more. So why am I confusing ones and swords? Forgive me. 2 more swords on the beach. So you've picked up 2 more, because what happens when we start taking a defensive stand? We defend not just only with our energy, we'll defend with our voice, we'll defend with whatever, because we want to be right. This comes down to wanting to be right, not wanting to be wrong. And very often when we're having to deal with the issues that we are overreactive on, when we haven't resolved them inside of ourselves, we will put this barrier out, because we don't want to be wrong. Nobody wants to be wrong, but we are sometimes. We don't accept things the way they go. So what's happened, we've gone from one issue that needed to be dealt with then to now we're holding 5 swords. So we've gone from 1 to 5 fairly fast. Yes, number 4 gives us a way out. That's the one thing I love about the swords. It always gives us a way out. If we go inside, if we, a lot of forgiveness, if we communicate with ourselves, and it's not just about burying the hatchet, it's really looking at what's there. If not, we're going to add more. We're going to create bigger problems, more issues, more things. So what I love about the 6 is it's another way out. This is where we accept responsibility. So here's the boatman, and there's a lady and a child in the boat going across. Not much difference between where the kind of a little bit of rough water there, then easier. It's like crossing a river. And the boatman is pulling the boat across with 6 swords, equally balanced in the boat. Not much, luckily, it's not too rough. But he's moving in the direction that he needs to move in. Just I'll bring this one a little closer to. This is an important one, because time, it talks a little bit about time here. No, not like bang time but it's like you're now doing what you need to do to begin to solve the issue or rectify the issue or whatever the issue is in relation to what's going on. But it is again showing there's a way out. So 4 and 6 show that we can maneuver and change circumstances. Do we do that? Oh boy, no, we don't do that. No, we're going to be like this guy in number 7. So he's carrying his 5. Remember from the argument in number 5, he's carrying the 5. He's moving it stealthily away from the camp. It's a temporary camp because they're all tents. And he's left 2 behind, and he's carrying his 5 away. Like, okay, you don't want to play, I'll go away and I'll play my game. This is a very sneaky symbol, because if you ever get really close, and I'll do this way, he's got a smirk on his face because he thinks he's put one over everybody. Like, ha ha ha, I've won here. I'm leaving with all my with all my treasures. Yeah, holding it all close. Actually, he's sneaking away. He's not wanting to be up front. He's not wanting to be communicative. He's not wanting to deal with anything at all. So it's just compounding issues. And I don't know, I'm old enough that I've done that kind of thing before I really understood a lot of this. I did a lot of that. Just, be quiet, don't say anything, and thinking it's going to go away. And of course it never does. And if anything else, it raises its head in a whole different way. So then we come to the 8, and I'm very familiar with this one over the years. She is bound to a stake, not a sword, a stake. Again, I'll push it a little closer because the castle of dreams is behind her. In other words, that's her goal. That's what she's wanting to create, is that castle of dreams. But if you look, there is now 8. Now, if you look at the numbers, she's got 3 on the right side of her, and she's got 5 on the left. And remember, the 3 was the disappointment, and 5 was the kind of conflict, the argument. So it's all there. And the river of life is a few muddy puddles in front of her. And so she's blindfolded. She can't see for looking. She's despaired. And even though the wrapping around her on the pole is quite loose, with a little bit of movement, she probably could begin to wiggle out, but her hands are kind of put behind her back, would make it a little harder. But it's like there's what she wants is behind her, but she can't see it. She's locked into all these issues that she's created, or he created it, because it's a he-she thing, right? So what do we do now? We go into total despair. 9, depression. The one thing I love about this symbol, remember, always gives you an out. Her quilt over her legs is in astrological forms. There's the red roses of desire and different astrological symbols. So consequently, you would need to get up and do something. Feeling sorry for yourself, feeling depressed for yourself is not going to resolve this issue. It's going to take inspiration. You've got to do something. You've got to start working on each one of those swords and bringing them down, and letting go of them, because it's just doesn't really work that way. And so finally, if you insist on carrying things through the whole way, what we've got here is a man lying on the sand with 9 swords up his back, one by his head, with the river of life beyond him, a new dawn coming, and the black receding. Remember, the black is totally black in the 9, the background, totally black. So now it's receding. But the key here is in the man's hand. And I'm going to see if I can pull it close. See that hand? How he frames that hand there? Well, that hand shows up in the Hierophant, number 5 of the Hierarchana, and in the 6 of Pentacles, which we haven't looked at Pentacles yet. So very important. It's about it's the 2. I can do it better with my other hand, actually, if I can hold my hand up. It's like you have these 2 fingers down. Oh, forget it. That hurts too much. 2 fingers down, these 2 up. And it's quite a symbolic thing, but it shows up in some of the symbology and that 10. So this man at the end has inspiration, awareness, knowingness, the direction of where they're heading and where they're going. So a new dawn is coming. I wish I could say learning how to handle the situations in your life that come up where the sword symbols predict is easy. Understanding the pattern helps. Working the pattern, being the pattern, understanding the pattern. And that's because most of our issues, as you'll see, there's a lot of water in these symbols. Even though this is an air sign, if you're astrologically looking at it, it's an air sign. Intellect, awareness, emotion, it means, and if you remember from the cups, the need to be aware of your feelings, and which is your body's way of talking to you, is what I say. And it's like aware of that. But when you've got an issue and you're not dealing with it, you're sublimating, you're pushing down, you're not wanting to look at that at all. So that's why the water in here is so important of these symbols. The rough water in number one, the sea type thing is rough too. And then you have a couple without any. 5, the river there is still a little showing it's rough. 6, that's leaving behind because you're doing something. You're working towards resolving it. And then 8, puddles in front of you. It's like it's not hardly there. And then 9, it's like relief, transformation, change, moving further. It's up and down. And when I was trying, and I say trying to figure out what is the pattern of this, it was probably the hardest one for me to grab hold of because I wasn't very confrontive in what my issues were way back when. So it was really having to look and see, well, what is happening here to this issue? How did number 1 get to number 10? How do we do that? And it's not a straight journey. Like wands is very easy. There's cups are easy enough to understand. This one, no, because it's emotion. It's an emotional hurt. It is something we don't want to deal with. And part of life is really learning to look at things square on. And most of us want to put our head in the sand and hope it goes away. Goodbye. We don't want to deal with this. But the reality is to grow, to become the person that you would like to be, or you perhaps need to be, you need to take a look at square one and look and not hide, not push down, but be aware and be willing. I found it very difficult sometimes to be able to say to people, I'm sorry about this. I apologize. Apologizing. I didn't want to do that for a long time. And then you learn. If you're in a relationship at all, you learn that. You say you're sorry. You let go. You don't hold on to it. So, okay, that's the sort of the conditioned elements. Now, what about these core cards that show your attitude? So, okay, what creates the issue here? We've got the page, overreacting. I'm trying to think of the birds in the sky. Yeah, he's got the birds in the sky showing a fish symbol. I forget how many birds there are. If you ever read my books, you'll see I put the numbers in. And he's against the wind. If you look at the tree down here, there's cypress trees, which is grief and death actually around. But also look how he's got his sword ready to do battle against the wind, So he's not flowing. He's standing strong in his I'll say righteousness. This is, I'm right, you're wrong. And so he's trying really hard to hold his space where he is. And what will happen very often remember, the knights are always about action and movement. This guy is going so fast. His horse is in a gallop and is obviously rough land against the wind. Look at the wind in the trees. He's against the wind. He doesn't even have his faceplate down. The birds in the sky, I believe they've gone into from 10 or something to 5. 1, 2, 5 birds flowing away. Everything's scattered. He's scattering everything. You don't have any idea if he's going to succeed. More than likely not. But this is when we overreact. This is an overreactor. We all know people like that. You say the wrong thing and they explode. Well, here you are. Here they are. Knight of Swords. off to the fray going. So then we've got the Queen of Swords. Many of us are like this, where we put a nice gentle face out and look like we're very open, but we're only so far. I would say I was like this for a long time, guarding my heart, guarding very sensitive. I was very sensitive as a child, and as an early years, and even probably now today, I'm still sensitive. I kind of, was made a lot of fun of when I was tall and skinny and whatever. So it's like we get our what do you call it, our barricade out. The queen is good at this. She doesn't look like she does, but she does. So she's protecting her heart. She's protecting her heart. She says, "Yes, come on, you're welcome. Come on close. Come on. I will, I'm open for you. Look at my beautiful, I've got everything. I'm really open, but it's like just so far. Please don't go any further." So that sword is there protecting. But the biggest stubborn one, actually, I got to like him a lot, is our king. Probably in some ways of all the kings, this one here is the most truthful. States what it is, knows what it is. In the sky, the birds in the sky in the court cards of the swords are important. The queen has only one bird, and I believe he has two, because two is the high priestess choice. And if only way you can deal with this person, as far as I'm concerned, is logic. You have to be logical. And how I learned that, because for many years I worked in a bookstore doing readings for people, and I had a lot of businessmen come in, and they would have this kind of, as I was learning, I really was learning those years, this kind of mythology here. And if I was blunt and straightforward, they took it on the chin, as they say, and they went forward from there, no problem. But very often this card and the King of Cups would come up for them. Businessman, dealing with business, no emotional stuff too much at all. But these guys, this king, there's something about this king I've always admired. There's a strength in there. And so I know when I was beginning to gather some of these, I took some of that strength at times to be able to, because I ended up a businesswoman doing business with a lot of men. And so it was like, how to work on that. You couldn't come as a wimpy female for sure, because they gobble you up for breakfast. So it'd be like how to meet them on that terms of like, this is the facts, this is what we want, this is how I want it, this is, can you deliver, can you not deliver, or whatever. And so it's like this, the whole sword elements, which I have sitting here looking at me, is like a tender hook journey that you go on. It's like hot coals. If you've ever walked across hot coals, which I have done 21 times in my life, you have to have a mindset. You just don't go walk across the coals. You have to get your mind in the right place. The first time was the hardest. I just really didn't want, every time I walked to the fire and felt the heat, I was like, I backed off. And I was very, very grateful, because my business partner at the time was running that fire, and I had run away from walking on fire for quite a while, and this time I couldn't get away. And bless his, I appreciate to this day, because everybody had gone, and he was holding the fire for me, and I knew that. And he said, he came out, they don't usually tell you what to do. He said, "Norma, see that mountain there? Look at it and walk." And I did, and he just closed the fire down right away. Anyway, walked 20 more times. Really found it very invigorating, and expanding. So it's like knowing, having clarity in the sense of the direction of where you're going and what you're doing. But we're many things, and we have issues that come up. We have problems that arise. How do we deal with them? Do we bury our hurts and pains? Do we act out because of our do we have a shield around us that says, I don't want to hear, I don't want to know, just go away? Or do we just stockpile all the stuff? And that's when we very often people get sick. Oh, I get sick sometimes. I've done that trip when I was younger. So there's there's loads of things that one does and accumulates and brings forward. Now, I have a saying that says it's not the event, it's how you handle the event, and that's true, because if you can handle anything that comes up right away, like this ace, you are going to be okay. But if not, you're going to have to wait till you get to 10 when it's overloaded and you finally kind of expire from the whole thing. And and you transcend, you move forward. To me, that does not mean like death. It means the situation is dead. It's done. And you're on to the next level of whatever learning or whatever element it is. Um, so it's a very, very interesting element. I'm just looking on the top of my deck. I just have to show you this. I looked over on the top of my deck sitting here. I had them facing. It's a death symbol. Oh, I just love the synchronicity of that. Because the 10 is very much like that. The end and new beginnings, creating newness, and especially with that hand showing, finding the spiritual understanding, finding and discovering what that all is about. See, when we get embroiled in the issues that boil inside of us, or if, like I used to do, put them over there somewhere when I won't think about them. What will end up happening is that it builds it and it explodes. And there's nothing really here that talks about explosion except the Knight of Swords. 5 of Swords, a little bit fighting, yeah, being quarrelsome. But basically, it's all inside, right inside, boiling around. Now, sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit like an old broken record going on about self-forgiveness, etc., etc., etc. But how do you clear this stuff otherwise? Sometimes you can't go to the person and sometimes you sit down and you can have things out, but very often you can't do that. So for circumstances, reasons, or changes, etc. But you can work with the universal love force and literally mean it when you forgive yourself, or you're part of it. You don't have to give the whole thing of it if it's not just you. If it's a big thing, but you're part in it. What part did you play? And maybe you don't even know the part you played. You just know that it didn't end up well. Is that and I mean, this is how I found a lot of my, you might say, cracks. Like, oh, do I really do that? Yes, you really do that. So you work, first of all, to forgive yourself what you have done, and then work to be stronger so you don't do that again. So you stay on the path of the direction of where and what and how you want that to be. So if you have a tarot deck, sit down and put the symbology out. And as you know, Rider-Waite deck I like because it's simple, like colors, and it can help if you've got a color awareness. Think of it as you're walking this path, collecting these swords, collecting this hurt and this pain. And then what exactly it shows how to deal with it. When I realized this whole deck, the whole suit of swords begins and ends at number 1, really. If we do it effectively, if we confront it, accept it, and do what we've got to do so that we don't go into confusion. We stay in love. We don't go into fusion, and we don't wish it would be away, which is often what happens. So anyway, that is the swords. Now, next week, it was so funny because I had no real intention of doing this, but started 2 weeks ago now, doing a suit a week. Next week is the beginning of April. And so I usually have do a little reading for what to expect for the month kind of thing. And I'm going to do that, but we'll look at the Pentacles because that'll tie that up. And then I'll see if what we're gonna do with the Higher Arcana or not. Philosophically, I believe it's really important to have your philosophy sorted out, to know what you're about, to know who you are, to know where you are. And I also want to take this moment to say, if you haven't listened to Monday's night's mental mind treatments, there was a very interesting one at the very end. that yes, it was for me. It was very interesting. I was very honored and proud of it, and hopefully we'll have more like that. But it's like a knowingness that Monday nights, for those that come in regularly, the growth, I have to say this, is their growth for the individual is showing up. It's showing up in several of the people who have come consistently and had the mental mind treatments for through time and space, which has been a wee while now. And now it's showing, and it's showing that as it is when you start a new path, when you start a new awareness, how sometimes, just like in the swords, you kind of double back and forward a little bit. But man, I must admit, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of what is being achieved through Monday nights. I am proud of the people who consistently come on. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. And that they're taking it to heart and listening and working and being. So, if it's one of the ways. And of course, I'm doing the deeper work besides readings for people, but it's like time it's such an unusual time out there. There's so much fear, there's so much negativity, there's so much uncertainty, I'll put it that way, so much certainty going on in relation to the outside world, that we need a philosophy of some kind to hold on to, because only that holds you through those times. Only that gives you a sense of what will be, and you don't get caught up in all the other stuff. Yes, I will. I'm thinking, while I make this comment, I was amazed at how many what I considered extreme spiritual people who understood universal law got caught up in the fear factor that happened a couple of years ago. I couldn't believe it. Like, where's the faith? Where's the belief? Where's the knowingness that this is not God's plan? This is not love. Where is it? And it actually shook me to find friend after friend after friend over the years was caught up in it. And it's like, how strong is your faith? Of course, that comes all out in the Hierarchana cards. And I don't know where I went on that tangent, but swords wrinkle things. They bring things up, things that you have buried. It's like it comes on up and out. And know that you are in command of your path. You are in command of your connection to that power, which I call the love source, but it could be called God, Allah, who knows? It doesn't matter the name. It matters the intent and what you feel and the knowingness that is there with you. You are not alone. It is your journey. I've lived a long time already now, and it's amazing to me how at this point, I still want to carry on. I still want to do the work. I still, yes, it's like people phone me wanting an appointment. I say, well, I only work via Zooms, phone, or Skype, because my whole living situation changed just before COVID, and consisted. So I just carried on because I wanted to do something. I didn't want to just sit and read books, which I can do. I'm a good reader. Anyway, I think I've wandered on enough. I care, love you all. I appreciate your support. Thank you, Maggie G, Yvonne, and CC99. Thank you for your comments right here on the comment. I appreciate it. You have no idea how that, oh, I'm getting tears in my eyes. I have to take a big breath. You have no idea how much your support means to me. Just knowing that some of the comments that come in thanking me, and this beautiful card that I got the other week, it just says, okay, you're doing what you need to do. So keep going, keep on going. And that's what I'm planning on doing. And I will, this arm of mine, it's very interesting. It's an old situation that has raised its head. And thank you, Sherry. And yeah, it will get resolved. It's just taking a little longer, but we'll get there, because that's me. I'm very persevering. That's one thing I learned. Love you all. Enjoy. And thank you for watching. Bye now.